So right at the end, we have the mention of the Passover. And the Passover towards the Passion. And today, very much, the readings are pointing us towards tomorrow, Palm Sunday, Passion Sunday, where we celebrate the death of Jesus Christ on the cross. And this death reconciles us to God. It's the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecies. And we see that in one of these prophecies in the book of Ezekiel here. And it's well worth reading. This is halfway through the second half of chapter 17. Read, is it chapter 17? 37. I need my glasses. So chapter 37. So if you get the opportunity, read chapter 37. Chapter 37 starts with the prophecy, the vision of the valley of dry bones. If you remember, the prophet Ezekiel sees this valley filled with bones, and the Lord raises up those bones so that they become a living army of people, a living mass of people. People who once died, dead, brought to life. And so God brings to life, brings us to life, life in its fullness. And this is the second half of that prophecy, that chapter. And so what is it saying? What is it saying to us? So let's just take a look. I'm going to take the sons of Israel from the nations where they've gone and gather them together to their own soil to make them into one nation in my own land. To make them into one nation. So the people of Israel, God's people, were divided at the time of Israel. And to the northern, divided at the time of Ezekiel, there was the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. They were one people, but divided amongst themselves. And one of the effects of sin is division. We are divided in ourselves. We know the things that we should do, and yet we do the things we know we should not. We are divided amongst each other, and the suspicion and jealousies and all these sort of things come into play as more and more division comes. And we see that in the world, in our families, in society in general. And of course, the division, the primary one, the division from God. We are separated from Him. And as human beings, there is nothing that we can do to repair that separation. That is totally in God's hands. We have a small part to play, but it's a very small part. So what He is saying is He will gather His people together and unite them. He will remove the separation of sin, remove the sin that divides us, and unite us once again, so we might have that unity of heart, unity of people, and unity with God. He will unite us. And one king is to be king of them all. Who is that king to be? They will no longer defile themselves with their idols and their filthy practices. I will rescue them from their betrayals that they have been guilty of. I will rescue them. And this is the key. It's not I will rescue myself, but it's God who rescues us. The Lord promising, I will do the rescuing. As we have been the ones who have been guilty of betrayal, of all sorts of sin, and bind ourselves, sink ourselves into mud that drowns us, tie ourselves up in knots that we can't get ourselves out of. We're incapable of reconciling ourselves with God. And so He is the one who reaches down to us to pull us out of the mud, to untie the bonds that bind us, and to free us so that we might enter into His kingdom, that we might no longer be bound by sin. I will cleanse them, wash them. And He does this through the sacrament of baptism. He does it. And the root of that baptism is what we're about to celebrate in Holy Week. One shepherd, my servant David, will reign over them. The Son of David is the one who fulfills that prophecy, Jesus Christ. And they will live in the land that the Lord gives us. What is this land that He gives us? The promised land. The promised land is for us on our journey. It's towards heaven. And it's not heaven later, pie in the sky when you die, but it's heaven that begins now. The kingdom of God, which is here already, but not yet complete. And so as we grow deeper and deeper in our relationship with Christ, as he washes us more and cleanses us more and more from our sin and pulls us up into the relationship with him, then that kingdom grows in us, and more are we living in the land that he promised, and that will be fulfilled in heaven. I will be their God. They will be my people. I shall settle my sanctuary among them forever. They will learn that I am the Lord when my sanctuary is with them forever. His sanctuary, his presence is with them forever. And he is with us. This body, your body, is his temple. He has made it his sanctuary. And where his sanctuary is, there he dwells. And he desires to dwell in you, in me, forever. That's the prophecy. And the prophecy is fulfilled, and we see in the death and resurrection of Jesus. The death of Jesus, which removes sin, which reconciles us to the Father and to one another. And this is what we're pointing towards here in this gospel text. It's leading up to it. So in the gospel, Jesus has just raised Lazarus from the dead. For them, in John's gospel, this is a critical moment. It's proved beyond a doubt that he is who he says he is. The Sadducees, who don't believe there's a life after death, there's no spirit, no angel, must be going mental because he has proven them wrong. And of course, they will want to get rid of him as quickly as possible. The Jewish leaders here, the Sanhedrin, they're talking about their fear that the Romans will destroy them because of Jesus. They are destroyed by the Romans, but not because of Jesus. It's because of their own actions that causes. Their rejection of God brings our own destruction. And we see that happen here with the Jewish leaders. And Caiaphas makes this prophecy. Better for one man to die for the people than the whole nation to be destroyed. So, and this is a prophecy that Jesus was to die for the nations. Not only the nation only, but to gather together in unity the scattered children of God. That image of unity again. And he does it by his death. What we celebrate in the sacraments, at the very heart of every single one of the sacraments, is the cross and resurrection. We are united, we are reconciled to God through baptism. And in baptism, we enter into the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. In the sacrament of reconciliation, the same thing happens. We enter in that sacrament into the death and resurrection of Christ through the cross. In the Eucharist, here we celebrate the death and resurrection of the cross. We are present. It is made present once again, that death of the Lord on the cross for us and his resurrection. That's what we celebrate. And each of the other sacraments, the same. At the heart is the death and resurrection of Jesus. He is the one who dies for us, to enable us to have that relationship with God once again. He is the one who rescues us. Not I rescue myself. It's him rescuing me. I have to want to be rescued. I have to call on the Lord to be rescued. I have to look at the cross with faith to be rescued. I have to make the choice, the decision of faith to be rescued.